Fred Richani, TSC News, here to rapidly recap UFC Fight Night. Rafael dos Anjos versus Eddie Alvarez. This fight took place Thursday night, and we still got 2 more nights of UFC action. We have the tough finale, where we decide the winner of the Ultimate Fighter reality show, as well as the grudge match, Joanna Jędrzejczyk taking on Claudia Gadelha for the UFC strawweight title. And then, of course, UFC 200, which is now headlined by Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt and Anderson Silva versus Daniel Cormier in a non-title fight. Holy doodle squad. And boy, oh boy, did UFC Vegas kick things off in the right direction. Eddie Alvarez, TKO, standing TKO victory over RDA in round number 1 to win the UFC lightweight title. I gotta say, I don't know Eddie, but he was one of the first fighters I ever covered. One of the first fighters I ever interviewed back in the early days of TSC. He was one of the first fighters I really took a liking to, even before I started this website and did interviews and all that jazz. I remember I fell in love with MMA in the mid-late 2000s, and I wasn't just one of those dudes that, watched the UFC pay-per-view and went to his buddy's house. Nothing wrong with that, but I needed more. And when I discovered HDNet, which is now Access TV, and they aired all these fights of Dream, the now defunct Dream organization, I saw this dude, Eddie Alvarez, have these kick-ass fights with Kawajiri, with Joachim Hansen. And I'm just like, this guy is freaking awesome. So then, he goes to Bellator. Headlines a few shows in Jersey and Philly, my neck of the woods, around the time I start covering MMA live. Got to interview him. Seemed like a really nice, down-to-earth dude. Nobody had anything bad to say about him. And there was something special every time he fought. Because, 1, you knew you were always going to get an exciting fight. 2, it was his neck of the woods, too. He's from Philly. He's from the Philly area. And you had a lot of friends and family there. But 3, it was kind of like a high school football atmosphere when he fought. I sat by his wife, by his brother. I was in press row, but, his wife wasn't too far away. And you just see the energy and the love that her and her family and their friends they just came off. So you can just feel the positivity, every time he came out there. And it was something special. This wasn't just going to a high school football game, cheering your kid, hoping he gets to play in the game. No. This was a guy who was not just a local guy, okay? He was more than a local guy. He was an underground king, as John Anik said on the broadcast. He was a guy that put on exciting fights, that just had these magical moments inside the cage. You knew there was going to be something special more often than not when you watched Eddie Alvarez fight. So fast forward to the legal struggles of Bellator with the old regime. Getting over that, beating Michael Chandler, going to the UFC after being a 2-time Bellator lightweight champion, being a big fish in a somewhat small pond, people saying, oh yeah, he's not UFC caliber. He lost to Donald Cerrone. A lot of people lose to Donald Cerrone. At least he lost via decision. Comes back, beats Gilbert Melendez via decision in high altitude in Mexico City with the busted up eye. Beats Anthony Pettis. You want to look at the resume of these two dudes? Pettis, former WEC champion, the most recent UFC lightweight champion before RDA. Gilbert Melendez, the former Strikeforce lightweight champion. Eddie beat him back-to-back. They weren't the most exciting fights, but he'd been in a lot of wars. He had to preserve himself, whatever. So here's Eddie Alvarez, who, in some ways, even though he's ranked number 3, or was ranked number 3, I'm sure he's a champion now. In some ways, he lucked himself into this title fight because RDA was supposed to fight Conor McGregor. RDA injured his foot. Fast forward to this show on Fight Pass, which was pretty exciting from top to bottom. And wow. Eddie Alvarez, the Underground King, has gone global. And on another personal note, I did work on a documentary feature with Spike TV, with the production company that was contracted with Spike TV. And we had a special where we interviewed Eddie Alvarez, Frankie Edgar, and their wives. And we kind of did just a feature on fighter families and how the families deal with these fighters traveling all the time. And what's ironic is that Eddie Alvarez and Frankie Edgar are training partners and train with a lot of the same guys, including Ricardo Almeida, who was in the cage celebrating with Eddie tonight. And it's just, again, you see the love, you see the passion, and sometimes you interview fighters and they seem like one thing on camera. I'm not naive. I know how some athletes are. I'm not, believe me, I'm a skeptic on a lot of stuff. But, you talk to people, you talk to fighters, you talk to journalists, you talk to training partners. They have nothing bad at all to say about this guy and the people around him. So much respect to Eddie Alvarez as a fighter, much respect to him as a person. I am super happy. I don't mean to make this Eddie Alvarez love fest, but seriously, it's just cool to see a guy who, started out young and, you cover, and to see him rise through the ranks. And dude, it's an awesome feeling. This is why we love sports. This is why we love MMA. So, that was great. We had Derek Lewis squeak by with a split decision win over Roy Nelson, the biggest win of his career to date. 4 straight wins. He did not get the finish. Here's the story of the fight. There were like 54 significant strikes, all from Derek Lewis. Roy Nelson, I think, had a total of 4. But where Roy was winning was the takedowns. Derek Lewis rocked and socked Roy Nelson in round number 1. I mean, Roy Nelson had this big red mark on his fat belly. It was, God, I did not want to be Roy Nelson. Round 2, Roy Nelson got him down, but just unfortunately didn't do much. Round 3, he got him down for most of the round, but Derek Lewis got back up with about 55 seconds left. He just threw heavy leather, rocked Roy Nelson, nearly finished him, and got the split decision win. We had Alan Jouban beat Bilal Muhammad via unanimous decision. A lot of hype on Muhammad, the fellow welterweight, but Jouban, who's I think is kind of a rising star in some ways, got the victory. He's a dude that comes to play, or doesn't come to play, I should say. Well, he does come to play with his fists. And man, he was rocking Bilal Muhammad in round number 1. Muhammad came back a little bit in round 2. And then round 3, those two dudes just went balls to the wall. Their chins are freaking granite. And actually, I gotta say this, RDA's chin is insane. The dude took so many shots, got up, was still in the fight, barely, but he was still in the fight. I mean, my God, much respect to Rafael dos Anjos. I mean, you hate to see a fighter take that kind of damage, but I'll tell you, it says something about this guy's toughness to take all those shots and to just go. He went down swinging. This wasn't a decision. There was no controversy, but man, you cannot argue with Rafael dos Anjos' toughness. He is incredible. And, Bilal Muhammad, man, incredible chin. Jouban as well. Whew. I have a feeling we'll be hearing a lot about these guys in the positive light in the next few months. I mean, Jouban, hopefully he'll get some top 15, top 10 guys, man. I'd like to see what he does. And Bilal Muhammad showed a lot of potential, so we'll see what happens there. First loss in his career. He'll learn from it for sure. We had Joseph Duffy beating Mitch Clark via rear naked choke in round number 1. Just 25 seconds. Just, man. Craziness. The last guy to submit Conor McGregor, although that was like 6 years ago, but still, the guy who came in with a lot of fanfare, lost an exciting fight to Dustin Poirier, came back, got a big win here. And as far as notable wins on the prelims, we had Alberto Mina defeating Mike Pyle, the veteran, via flying knee knockout and punches. Just brutal. Round number 2. Oof. Sucks to be Pyle tonight, man. But, he's been in the sport for a long time. That's the way things go. We had John Makdessi defeat Mehdi Baghdad via split decision. Anthony Burchak beat Delano Lopes via split decision. Pedro Munoz beat Russell Doan via guillotine choke in round number 1. We had Felipe Arantes submit Gerard Sanders via armbar in round number 2. Gilbert Burns beat Lukas Sajewski, I hope I pronounced that correctly, via armbar in round number 1. Marco Beltran beat Hinaldo Vieira via rear naked choke in round number 2. And then we had Vicente Luque defeat Alvaro Herrera via Darce choke in round number 2. So I didn't get a chance to catch all the prelims. I caught most of them. But yeah, a lot of submissions, a lot of finishes. So not a lot of huge names, but a card well worth going out of your way to see. But folks, I want to hear from you. What do you think about Eddie Alvarez finally reaching the promised land? What do you think about the beast, Derek Lewis, and his future? Let me know. Leave a comment below. Tweet us, Facebook us. Do what you got to do. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, take care. And just a quick note, as I'm recording this, a lot of crazy violent stuff is going on in Dallas. So for anybody that's been affected by that tragedy, just please or anybody in the area. I know I got a few friends in Dallas. Just stay safe, everybody. Let's keep the violence in the cage. Okay, let's keep the violence inside the octagon, inside the ring. Not out there, So hope everybody stays safe. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. But please, I'd love to hear your thoughts by leaving a comment below. Tweet me, Facebook me, do what you got to do. And until next time, everybody, as always, enjoy the fights.